Hello, good late afternoon, early evening, everyone. All right. Yes. Welcome to our session today on promoting high performance with team mentoring. My name is Kalenga. I am your host, representative of ATD Golden Gate, which is hosting the event. And our presenter today is Chris Danek, who has graciously offered to share his knowledge and his expertise in this area. But before we jump into the training itself, I wanted to take some time to let us get to know each other. So I will ask if you are able, please turn your camera on, especially in this day and age when we're meeting most of our people through a screen. It just helps to have that human connection when we can actually see the human. And so I am going to stop sharing at this time. And if I've stopped sharing and you want to see everyone all at once, I'm just, for instruction's sake, up in the top corner, there's the view button. And if you click on it, click view and click gallery view, then you get to see all of us at once. All right. Welcome again. So just to get to know the people in the room, we are expecting a couple more participants, but we're going to get started and they will join along as we continue. I have a couple questions for you, so I'm going to write it in the chat. I'd like you to tell us your name, what you do for work, or what is your area of focus. So if you are employed, self-employed, retired and focusing on other projects, or not retired and still focusing on other projects, whatever that is. Also, in order to help us understand a little more about you, I want to know what kinds of teams have you worked with? Or do you work with? So do you work with a fairly large size team? Do you work with a cross-functional team? Do you work with an executive team? If you had to think of the characteristics that really defined your team dynamic, what would that be? And then what attracted you to this topic today? I'm putting these questions in the chat so that just in case you need it for a reference, you have them. So I will ask, just to get started, Sandy, would you mind introducing yourself to the group?
Okay, my name is Sandy, obviously, Sandy Wines. I'm a program manager at NetApp it's in Silicon Valley. We just moved from Sunnyvale to San Jose. I work in the training department as a program manager. So I work with cross-functional teams mostly. I work with teams that are developing and delivering training to both internal audiences and external customer audiences. Occasionally I get weird ones like the one that I just got pulled into now, which is actually a replacement of a database platform, which then affects all of our reporting, not only in education, but in some of the other groups as well. And so I got pulled onto that team. And that's probably what attracted me to this, because I'm kind of lost in this one. I've only been on it for a couple of weeks. I got pulled into it a couple of weeks ago, and I feel kind of lost. Like I should know what to do better than I do right now. So I'm working on it and I want some tips.
Thank you, Sandy. Karen.
Hello, everyone. I'm Karen, and I work at Invite. One thing, I work with cross-functional teams. I am the talent and learning lead or manager with the company, and I work with cross-functional teams on enterprise learning and development. Right now, currently, we have a mentorship program, and the topic mentorship which we're rolling out through the company, has it's in its infancy. And so I'm looking for tips and tricks for team mentorship, what that meant when I was reading it. And it was really a good topic to learn tips and tricks to roll out, as well as to talk to managers with, have conversations with managers about team mentorship and what does that mean. I always get questions about, because the mentorship platform we're using, I just want to learn more about it. So tips and tricks, how do you talk to your managers about it? What should I look for? What should I say? I've had leadership panels to talk about mentorship, like panelists, and why it's good and beneficial, but want to attract more mentorship, to our platform, but also want to learn about what this means. So
Thank you, Karen.
thank you.
John. Hi, John.
Hello. Hi there. Sorry, I'm just making dinner. Trying to,
No
Let
problem.
me just stop moving around. Hello, everyone. Yeah, John Pappas. I live in Santa Rosa, California. And I used to work with, hi, Paul. I know Paul used to be the president of the North Bay chapter, help run the North Bay chapter. And I work for Medtronic, which is the world's largest medical device company. So we make pacemakers and stents and diabetes pumps and you name it, medical devices. And so I work with the cross-functional medical device teams that invent, design, manufacture, and commercialize new medical life-saving devices. And so I would say it's like, that's not mentorship. These are the most important teams in the company in terms of they generate and invent the new medical inventions, right? So it's cross-functional. It's improving predictability, improving the predictability of these teams being able to launch products, which take anywhere from 3 to 5, 7 years, and these teams are together for that amount of time, and they're pulled out of their day-to-day job and put on this team. So commercializing medical devices is incredibly complicated and heavily regulated environment too. So, but anyway, looking forward to learning more, and thanks for having me.
Thank you. And so just to summarize so far, so we've got Sandy and Karen, you both are working with cross-functional teams, but mainly focused on the curating of learning and development resources for consumers or our clients, correct?
Yeah. I do mentorship, and I talk about mentorship and programs. I'm rolling out programs.
Gotcha.
So all the time.
Thank you. Thank you. And then in John's case, I know he had to step away, but in John's case, it sounds like he's dealing with cross-functional teams, but there's a mix of, obviously they're in a medical device industry. So there's the nuance of highly technical, highly regulated, and very long lead times with the team. So I know he's not here to corroborate that, but
yeah, that's a good.
Oh, you can still hear me.
Yeah, long. Yeah, very technical. These are teams actually, designing and launching the product. So it's like it's cross-functional product development is a more generic way to say it. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, Paul.
Hi, I'm Paul, and I primarily work with frontline teams who are producing something or are in charge of a process, usually small teams, 5 to 7. We make a big deal out of teams having captains, understanding who basically the natural leaders are, or the leaders accepted by the group. So I'm here because I'm interested on how they work together to develop each other and become more functioning as a team without requiring leadership from administrative or higher up folks. I work with the city of Santa Rosa part-time, and a lot of these folks are like street crews or the water department, people who work night shifts and that, where there aren't a lot of formal leadership around, and they pretty much have a lot of autonomy to do things. And how do they develop the skills to help each other?
Great. I love the diversity of teams that we have going on here. And just want to give a moment. Hello, Is it Alicia?
Hello, it's Alicia.
Alicia, thank you for correcting me. Welcome to the training. You came exactly at the right time because we are just introducing ourselves to each other. And so I am going to put in, once again, just the questions that we are answering for general introductions. If you don't mind, Alicia, I know you just got here, but if you could let us know well, we know your name, Alicia, but the type of work that you do. And then the two questions we're answering are, what types of teams do you work with? So do you work with cross-functional teams, technical teams, executive teams, whatever characteristic you think is important? And what attracted you to this topic?
Great. My name's Alicia. I lead the enablement team at Workato. It's a team of about 10 people. We fluctuate between 10 and 12. And we do enablement. So for say all the revenue generating teams, customer success, sales, pre-sales, partners, SDRs. And this topic was interesting to me because it's a young team, both my team and the people we support. So mentoring comes up a lot, and just wanted to see how other people are doing it and get some tips on that.
Great. Thank you so much, Alicia. So now that we've all introduced ourselves, without further ado, I wanted to hand it off to our presenter of today, Chris. He just recently, or forgive me if it wasn't recently, but he did author an article on team mentoring within the TD at Work. If any of you have read those articles or been to the ATD national website, he's contributed his expertise there. He is also a member of our Golden Gate chapter and offered to share his expertise with the community. And so, Chris, I will give you the floor to more properly introduce yourself and kick us off.
Yes, thank you, Kalinga, and thank you, everyone. I'm glad we have a committed and focused group because we can have a very powerful discussion. Kalinga, would you mind to follow the format of your intro and just tell us, you're here because you're here for programs and so forth, but do you work with teams? And if so, what kind of teams?
Yes, of course. I always forget to introduce myself. So my name is Kalinga. I work for a nonprofit here in the Bay Area called Eden Housing. We build, but we also manage low-income housing to support low-income families, senior citizens, persons with disabilities, and just overall marginalized communities. We provide, so my team is the talent development team. I support all talent development for the organization. We're small to mid-size, I guess. We're just under 500 employees. And so my teams that I tend to work with are everywhere from frontline teams, such as what Paul was indicating, to executive cross-functional teams, who are looking to support the overall strategic goals of the business. And they need learning and development programs to foster that. And so my team can change. Obviously, my core team, we are a small group. There are about 4 of us. But we focus on pretty much every facet of learning and development, from analysis and design and development all the way through to evaluation. And we even sprinkle in some coaching and consulting. And so what interested me about this topic, Chris, was I had never heard of team mentoring. I had heard of mentoring in terms of one-on-one and the difference between a mentor and a coach and all of that. But when you came to me and you said, well, I've been working on this idea of team mentoring in order to drive success, it really caught my attention. And as a member of the community, when you had offered to host an event to talk more about it, I wanted to make sure we brought that to the community. And so I'm glad to see you all here, and I'm glad to hear what brought you here, because, it gives Chris some things to make sure that he can work with, but B, it allows for more open discussion. So thank you all in advance. Did I answer the
Thank
question?
you. Thank you, Kalenga. And that was great. I really do appreciate understanding what everybody's interested in and what you hope to get out of today's discussion. I think I have a pretty good beat on everyone's kind of objectives, except Sandy. I don't know the details of the team that you're trying to help, that you feel they're a little lost and you're a little lost. So as we go through the discussion, you should interject at any time with the specifics and introduce them as far as you feel comfortable. And I make that offer to everyone. So let me introduce.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks. So let me introduce myself in the same way. My name is Chris Danek. And like John, I've been in the medical device field. For me, it's close to 30 years, 25 to 30 years, something like that. And I work with the same kind of teams. For my whole career, I've been trying to make the best possible design solutions. So thinking about design thinking and how to really be on target with a medical device, and to do it in the best way possible, get the most out of the teams that I've been a part of. And so, I would say that I have been a student of and practitioner of design thinking and agile teamwork for my entire career. And over the last 5 years, I've also begun teaching, kind of giving back, not only mentoring companies and startup teams, but also teaching in the university environment, bringing a lot of these same concepts forward there at the Catholic University in Washington, D.C., and also at University of Texas at El Paso. So the three types of teams that I work with are product development teams for medical devices and diagnostics, senior executive teams, largely in the same field, and then student teams that are working on projects, either semester-long or year-long capstone projects. And so that's been an opportunity for me to kind of connect the dots around this concept of team mentoring. So when we get into tonight's talk or program, Kalenga calls it a training. You guys are here to train me, just so you know. But I think we're all get a lot out of it, and I'm happy to share what insights I have and also to learn from you. I'll say that I'll give you one kind of a tool that I use a lot and I like. So when we get into the icebreaker in just a moment, I'll share a new tool. Will give some tips about how to think about mentoring in relation to teams and how to get started with that and so forth. And then I'm also, I have an Easter egg in the presentation. There's a picture that illustrates a situation where maybe having a team mentor isn't really a good idea. And so we're going to have kind of an interesting set of discussion. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to paste a link into the chat. This is a Google Jamboard. Has anybody used a Google Jamboard before? Okay, so the first thing to do is to click the link. John, are you on your phone or on a computer?
I'm on my phone on my headset, but on my laptop. I mean, audio through my phone.
So for anybody that experiences a kind of a technical difficulty, we can also watch the chat and put your responses from the chat into the Jamboard, which is kind of a very basic whiteboarding. And so if you click on that link, it's going to take you into the Jamboard. And I'm going to go there in a second. I'll share my screen to the Jamboard so I can help illustrate what we're doing, but I think it's very easy to follow along. And I'll catch up with you on the Jamboard in just a second. So I'm sharing my screen, but I'm on the Jamboard. And I see 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 of us so far on the Jamboard, which is a very good start. And if you look at the left-hand side, if you can follow my cursor, on the left-hand side is a set of tools. If you go down to the fourth item, it's called the sticky note. And when you click on it, you can type info into it and hit enter, and it just goes into a spot on the page where you'll have to then drag it wherever you like to see it. So I'll give an example. We just did introductions. I'm going to go to a different page. Let me hold that thought. So up at the top, to me, it looks like a TV screen. It's really the screens of the Jamboard with a left arrow and a right arrow. this is how you can navigate. So now I'm on the first screen of the Jamboard, which is where I want it to be. Okay. And I'm going to pull up a Post-it note. And the guiding question on this board is, how might team performance be more challenging this year than ever before? And we can type in a response. I won't presume to add something in, but you can just pull up a sticky note on the left-hand toolbar in the middle. It's the fourth one down. And when you click on it, it'll let you type in some responses. So I'll give a few minutes for eliciting the challenges. Feel free to come off of mute if you're having any issues or questions about how to work this through. Now I see Kalenga smiling. She's an extraordinary facilitator. My technique is kind of like popcorn in the microwave. When the ideas slow down, then we can move on. But Kalenga, also, if you sense it's time, then you can help me. Maybe just another minute for folks to put last thoughts down.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay, thanks. And while you're finishing up on final thoughts, I'll just kind of go through some of the themes that we see here. A lot of it has to do with remote work or hybrid work, trust and connections when you don't see each other. We got one which is pre-IPO and moving at hair on fire pace, which is that's maybe to the power of N on the understaffing where work and deadlines continue. People want to get out and enjoy life. Managers who micromanage are struggling with remote leadership. That's an interesting one that I haven't thought about. Running a large company without having trusted metrics. I think that team, and so a global team, a hybrid team, and understaffing, and those are all common theme issues. And I think that focusing on team performance and mentoring is a good fit. Some of the items are more oblique or adjacent tangent to this, is like running a large company without the metrics. I'm not sure we'll get into anything about that today, but that's okay. It's good to know what's on people's minds. Okay, so I'm just going to say thank you, and give anybody who wants to speak to what they put on this board a chance to elaborate. I'd be happy to hear from you.
So I did not put the understaffing one, but that is a challenge. I don't know if it's because we're remote. I think it's hard to convey to execs just how hard teams are working. Yeah, that's all I'll say about it.
Yeah, that's interesting, right?
And I noted that informal communications are really hard to come by now. It's like every time you need to ask a question or, just double check something, you have to call, or you have to Zoom, or you have to do something, or message. You can Teams message, but it's not the same as, when you're standing talking to someone and saying, but what about, and how does that affect? And, you know, it just, that kind of thing happens naturally, but remotely, it's every communication kind of needs to be planned in one way or another.
Yeah, I
And
think that's a
Mhm.
good point. Excuse me, whoever was trying to talk.
It was Karen. We're being remote with everybody is siloed. So communication is hard between teams, and a lot of people are feeling isolated. And we're also at a company, we're also at capacity of 125%. So training is put at the back burner, or mentoring is put at the back burner as needed. So, and team, especially with teams. So that's what I mean. Those are kind of the metrics we're going by.
Yeah, I think we're going to be able to uncover some ideas that are going to help with that today. So
Okay.
um, call me out if you think you didn't get something useful about this idea that, you know, you don't have time for the mentoring because you're too busy with the work of the business. I think I'm going to propose something that works pretty well for that. Cool. So I'm going to move on, and I'll just jump into a few slides, and let me see how this works. So I started a slideshow, and you guys should all still see the screen. Can I get a thumbs up or a head nod? Cool. Thank you.
Mhm.
And thank you again for the wonderful introduction, Kalenga. And, you know, when I did introduce myself, I didn't connect that passion for helping teams as fully as I'd like. It really isn't within me to really work on teams at the same time and capabilities of an organization at the same time I'm working on a product or service development. And so much so that, you know, I went back to my original reason for getting a PhD, which was to teach, and started teaching. And that is incredibly fulfilling, but it also teaches you and helps you in a lot of different ways. And I think the most experience I've had with mentoring has come through working with a few dozen student teams on capstone projects. And I've really learned a lot and translated that into what I'm doing in industry. And then I was reading a TD at work that comes from ATD. And all of a sudden I realized, you know, talking about mentoring teams would be a perfect TD at work. So I reached out and asked, and they said, yeah, we'd love you to write this up. So that's what I did. And this is really the, you know, follow through on that activity. After it came out, I approached Kalenga, and, you know, I'm a member of the Golden Gate chapter. I really have appreciated, for example, I took instructional design from Chris Schaefer. It was an awesome course and all the programs of the chapter. And I thought that this might fit and be a way to kind of give back and connect to what's happening kind of at the ATD national level, some of the materials that are coming out. So for today, I'll just describe a little bit about what team mentoring is and why you might consider it in addition to the one-on-one mentoring programs that you have. I'll give you one slide that kind of encapsulates the TD at work, kind of in outline form about how to put a program into place, very high level, very quick. And then we're going to get into a little bit more detail on the real benefits that come out of having team mentoring, where it says empower and energize your teams. And then, you know, it's really important with all the work that we have, even whether you're in the teams as a you know, functional member of the teams, or if you're in the talent development and learning development, it's important that we find ways that this complements other efforts and initiatives. And because I'm moving the gallery of people around, I had to skip over number 4, which is an opportunity to really identify, develop, and retain emerging leaders in your company. And throughout, we'll have discussion. And at the end, I would like for you to let me know what questions and comments you still have that aren't addressed by this program in the amount of time we have. And so we could either continue the conversation, or gives me more things to think about to further flesh out these ideas and make them even more valuable.
And if I may, just one thing I'd like to add, Chris, We did allocate about 15 minutes towards the end just for general networking. This was as a direct result of survey feedback we got from our community saying that they wish they just had time just to talk and just to connect. So if you are available, or if time permits and you'd like to stay and just chat, we feel free. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, thank you. Then I think that's going to be very valuable to me as well. So what is team mentoring? Well, I'll just say that it's the idea that you're going to apply the principles of coaching or mentoring to a team rather than an individual. That's a shortcut way to define it. And in thinking about why that might be a good thing to do, think about the challenges of a one-to-one mentor working with an individual depicted here outside the team and trying to help them integrate with the team and be a more effective teammate and to be able to produce better and so forth. That's really creating a situation where you say, well, you should do this. You might think about this, and it puts the burden on the individual to kind of push into the team. In contrast, if the mentor is focused on the team and focused on the culture of the team that we like, having shared purpose and vision that connects to the vision of the organization, making sure that everyone on the team is contributing as much as they can. We get the most out of all the team members, that everyone has a voice. We would say that, it's axiomatic to me that a diverse team can produce better results if you include the team members and are able to be effective in your teamwork. So this situation is very different. It's focusing on we as a team and the team making sure that they have the culture to get the most out of everybody. That team will pull in the team members and they all pull together. And there's two more important reasons. They're bracketed on the text below, which are my talking points. The first one is you're focusing directly on the results of the team that matter to your organization, right? So there's a straight line between the efforts and suggestions of the team mentor in guiding the team to try to help the team produce better. And secondly, you get leverage in the sense that a team mentor is working with, if we took the example of, I think it was Paul that said he works with teams of 5 to 7 people. A team mentor then would be affecting the entire team, helping the team get better, and also helping the 5 to 7 team members also become more productive and valuable to the organization. So I think there's also a feature of leverage that's there. I'll pause and ask for questions or comments because I'm sure we'll have them throughout.
Hey, Chris. Can a manager be a team mentor, or is this something that's typically a neutral third party type of person steps in?
Yeah, so with respect to the team itself, I think it's healthy and important that the mentor doesn't have a supervisorial or authoritative relationship with the team. I think that's good for the autonomy of the team. Paul was mentioning we have teams that are out there that have to figure out how to self-organize and get work done. So it's good for the team. But it's also the case that managers are great candidates for being mentors of other teams that they don't run. And the reason for that is that they can develop skills and practice of, developing trust and empathy with the team, and stripping away the aspect of having direct reports actually cause you to interact and engage in a more powerful and sometimes productive way. And I'll talk about that in a little bit when I talk about train the mentor and emerging leaders and the value of the organization that comes from that. But thank you for that question, Kalinga.
So if you were to establish someone like a coach, would they be a coach? Mentoring and coaching are not the same, but there would be a team mentor, like someone who might be a lead, but not supervisor. It would be someone who is has influence without authority.
Yeah, influence without authority is a good way to put it. I'll just tell you, I don't have a strong and crisp definition to distinguish between a coach for a team and a mentor for a team. I chose the word mentor because I do think more of a guide for the team. So someone who is very experienced in the domain, but also in teamwork, agile teamwork itself. I think of a coach as having a little bit more of direct line authority, and that's just a connotation that it carries with me. But I think, honestly, in your organization, if the word coach works better for what you're trying to do, I would say I don't really have a strong definition. A mentor is this for a team, and a coach is that. I tried to use sports analogies as I was thinking about this. Those break down very quickly. So I don't know what your thoughts are, Karen.
I think it's someone who has experience or is seasoned. I think it's someone who's a team member who's seasoned, a seasoned team member who can provide guidance, who can provide, mentorship on the team. Usually that's what it falls into, usually a talented, seasoned person. But then it's disadvantaged for the talent because everybody goes to them all the time, and you're like, but I have to get my job done, and then they get burnout. So my question is,
So that's interesting. So the description you gave is how I think of a team mentor. And I think this is a case where having roles and responsibilities that are clear and expectations that are clear on both sides is also helpful. And this is with student teams where we pair student teams with industry professionals, but I've had the same situation a handful of times in my career on teams I've been on or on teams where I've helped to mentor. The first thing is, what's the time commitment expected? You can be an effective mentor with 1 to 2 hours a week. You could be highly effective with that amount of time. Teams have to figure out subject matter experts to go to get questions answered, and they should be going outside the team frequently and as much as is as practical and useful. But that doesn't mean they always go to the team mentor. So we could kind of separate out some of that advice that they would be seeking, or it might be more substantial. And within the organization, you probably have to define how much involvement with the team activities and the communications the mentor needs to be able to be effective. And I think this is very difficult to prescribe. There's no one size fits all solution for something like that.
Okay.
So first of all, you can get this article for free. This is the TD at Work. I was going to give you like a 30-second outline of what's in it. And if you can't access it for free through National, there are ways I can get you to some or most of the material that's in there through email conversation, what have you. I cannot distribute the article though, because of copyright. So it kind of starts out with the premise you should think about, and you can follow Addy, right? You can use Addy to think about this, analyze, what is it? Analyze, design, develop, implement. There's an E, evaluate, something like that. So you can use the Addy model if that's what you're most familiar and comfortable with, to thinking about like, what are the needs of the organization, and will team mentoring be the most valuable way to improve the results that I'm looking for in my organization? And then from there, you have to start thinking the combination of design and change management, because you're going to have to get support for the change. And then you get into the detailed design after you've done a lot of stakeholder conversations and discovery learning, the details of the design, and then pilot it, and then scale and improve. There's nothing in any of those steps that I think would be surprising or to any of you, or on their face profound, but it's just a kind of a realization that you can't skip steps if you want to be effective. Now, I've had someone ask me, what's the best way to start? And from a practical standpoint, if you want to even see what it's like, you might just find one team and one mentor and do a pre-experiment. So that really fits in with the way that I like to work. Of like, if I have a vision of where I want to head, you might try it with one, or maybe even get some diversity and try it with 3 teams, something very small, something informal where you don't have to tell people that's what you're trying, and just see what happens, learn from it, and then you can move forward if it makes sense. So I'm going to tell a quick story, and it's a medical device story. So John, we represent a small fraction of the group, but probably could tell long stories. As you mentioned, it takes a long time. There's a lot to it in medical device development, but I'm gonna paint a quick picture and tell you about a situation where I was mentoring a team in the medical device environment. So a small startup company that had a commercial product at Gen 1 was working on their 2nd generation of their technology. And in a startup, it's paramount to meet your development milestones. You've told investors that's what you're going to do, and the funding and the livelihood of the company depends on meeting those goals. In a medical device company, as you could imagine, when you're in a commercial stage and you're selling products on the market, it's a regulated industry for very good reason. There's things that you need to do that just come along with the business and you're doing things appropriately. So there's a way to deal with customer feedback, which in medical devices is called a complaint handling system. If there's any issues with the performance of your device, you need to analyze the cause of it. If it is something that impacts patient safety, if it does, what's the scope of the impact? Is it just n equals 1? Does it affect everything that you're doing in the field? Is it certain lots that you've manufactured? And there are statutory requirements for both doing the process as well as the timing of the process. So with this team, it had a kind of, we talked in the beginning about understaffing, overwork, how are we going to deal with this? The situation was their inbox was too full. It was fuller than it should be. They were in danger of being out of compliance. And they were also having a strategic partner in Europe that was distributing in Europe was also very unhappy with the customer experience of the feedback and the way that they were trying to close their complaints and complaint handling. So I came in and helped the team using some agile principles, or some things that are very, very similar to lean manufacturing, to do just several simple things. And this helped the team immensely. The first was to just develop a tracker or dashboard that showed for each complaint that came in, its status, the next step, what the next due date would be, and who owned it. We could then use that to organize our work within the team. So when we come into a team meeting, we would work on something that's critical from a safety standpoint, late, due next, and you can imagine how we could triage our work that way. Secondly, we would publish that to senior management once a week. And let me take a step back and tell you what the team told me when I came in. They said, we need you to go to the CEO and we need you to get him to push back the schedule for the 2nd generation product, or we need more resources because we just can't do this. And the team was extremely stressed. The team wants to do a great job, but was really having a hard time. So we put this dashboard into place. We started organizing our meetings around it. And what we would do is I would just make sure that the dashboard went out to the owners a day before we meet. And then the meeting was a day before we published it to senior leadership. As you can imagine, we just started cleaning up these complaints very quickly, from frequent communication, from focused communication, and from publishing this. And if anybody's seen Scrum, there's a famous book around Scrum called something like twice the output in half the time. And I was shocked because we followed the exact same template. we actually boosted our productivity in closing complaints by a factor of 2x on about 40 to 60% of the staff meeting hours, right? People still working on them, but we used a lot less team meeting time. And that to me spoke wonders. And the morale of the team improved. Now we are on track with complaint handling, and we are able to meet the goals of the second generation. And all the stress and time and energy and frustration that went into how are we to deal with the fact that we're not being successful kind of went away. So I think that team mentors, helping teams take a step back, get control of their work, and boost their productivity, that extra time helps them to feel better and to move along better. I see some things in the chat. Okay,
Oh, that
great.
was just me. I was put a
Yeah.
link to the book you'd referenced. It's not, we don't sponsor the author of that book or anything, but sometimes if you're curious to take a look.
Yeah, and I don't have a relationship with that company either. So this is let's see, Karen, the idea like we don't have time to do two things at once. That's a direct example for that. And secondly, the fact that a team mentor is really focused on your 125% effort of getting things done, it should be recognized by everyone in the team and everyone around and outside the team that that's actually a valuable investment of resources. And if not, you're going to want to shift the way that the mentor relates to the team and how they interact and the things that they're doing. It is another situation where continuous improvement and making adjustments and refinements is important. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the idea of who should be a mentor. It goes back to Kalinka's question. And it's a fascinating idea that managers could be mentors to help them improve. And, Kalinga, you anticipated that very well. But secondly, what we're finding now with employees, and this is borne out by a friend who was telling me he runs a successful and very rapidly growing set of rehabilitation clinics, physical therapy clinics. And he says that the people he's hiring now, the fulfillment and interacting patient by patient is not enough. After a couple of years, they feel like we've done that. They need to connect to a higher purpose. He's actually organizing the way that he delivers healthcare by forming small teams that have a shared purpose and sense of accomplishment together, and that his younger employees, new employees right out of school, are looking for that. And what I described to him, we'll have a follow-up conversation, so I can't really fill in any more details on this, but I propose that actually for people who are near peer mentors, after a couple years of experience, they have an insight to the teams that's different than someone with, say, 10, 15, 20 years of experience. So a near peer mentor can provide a lot of value to the team, and it's an incredible development opportunity for the mentor themselves, right? And so this is a way to bring meaning and deep professional development and purpose to an employee who is looking for that.
Well, and Chris, if I may, just to wrap my head around it, are you saying that part of successfully implementing team membership is for there to be an investment in training the mentors, training people who would be interested in being a mentor?
Yes. So if you want to develop a mentor program, you have to understand who the mentor should be. So you'll have to select them. Mentors should, if there's roles and responsibilities and expectations, the mentors and the teams need to at least know that. So that's some of the training is on the expectations. Every organization is different. So if you draw your mentors from people who are, as Karen mentioned, seasoned, experienced leaders who've been on the teams, they may already have all the knowledge they know about the culture of the organization, the way teams work and so forth. Or you may be looking to a mentor who's outside, who's has knowledge of the field, who's excellent at teamwork, but doesn't know the organization. They might need to be trained on the organization and the way things are done at the organization. So I think that when you establish a mentoring program, you need to know the objectives of the program. Is your highest priority team results? Are you looking for the talent development aspect of retaining talent and so forth? And then what are the specific kind of like, what's the playbook that mentors are going to have in your organization? And so I think that you need to develop that program and you need to train to it. It doesn't mean you have to make, like, as I was mentioning in the beginning, you can start, try, learn, and document as you go, rather than try to design something perfect and never really get there. Thanks, Kalinga. So there's an Easter egg here. I promised you, and I'm just going to highlight. Remember I said there can be situations where a team mentor isn't the right choice. I kind of imagine, having a mentor that's on the riverbank is not really productive if you're in a whitewater rafting situation, right? And so I like this picture because it has a lot about teamwork and so forth, but also because to me, it implies, be careful about what you think team mentors can and cannot do for your teams. I don't know if anybody has a story that they want to tell about a team that they've worked with, or a situation where they thought a mentor might help or not, but this would be a good time for that if anybody has anything they'd like to share.
I have a quick funny story that's really not work related, but that picture, whenever I see that picture, I think of when I went river rafting and the guide is in the back smoking pot and getting high and says, "Don't worry, I'm better when I'm high." And and all of us are like all now a lot more nervous about the team mentor being high.
I wasn't prepared for that line of discussion.
Yeah,
so.
probably not. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's interesting. I will say one thing about this, right? A mentor needs to earn the trust of the team that they serve. And, you talk a little bit about trust of someone who's in the boat with you, but one of the great things that a mentor can do, if they have the agency for it, is they can actually not only suggest things to the team, but they may be able to interact with senior leadership or other folks in the organization in a way that helps the team if the team cannot do. Like, you can imagine, if you guys are familiar with Scrum, the role of the Scrum Master is to work across the organization. And if you have resource constraints, to identify and work on those, and those go to dynamics in the organization. But not all teams, if it's an agile team that has someone that's even chartered to do something like that, maybe they don't have the seniority or the experience and confidence to do that in the same way that a mentor might be able to do. But the communications that a mentor has with the team and with individuals on the team are sensitive, in the sense that the mentor serves the team but also has to respect and to the extent possible serve the individuals. So trust, John, you kind of like got me thinking about trust, and trust of the mentor, I think, is vital, and something that you have to make sure also is part of the norms that you establish when you have mentoring, right? What are the roles and what are the boundaries that are appropriate for communication, or which things are inappropriate?
So Chris, to your point there, when I've thought of mentoring and been in mentoring situations, mentoring is not only a mutual relationship, but one that's sought by the mentee, and coaches can be assigned by the organization. You don't often get to pick who your coach is. That's across the board. The symphony orchestra does not select the conductor. Okay, those sorts of things. But when it comes to mentoring, there has to be a bit more mutuality, and usually it's sought after, and that's where that internal credibility, influence, and trust comes from, because I sought you out to do this. I'm starting from a position of vulnerability and willingness to participate.
Yeah, I'd say I'd say for the most part, I agree with all of that, Paul. And except that if a company was putting together a formal program for mentoring of teams, they might in the beginning assign mentors, but the team has to work to the mentors. You know, the mutuality. You use the word mutuality. It does have to be a mutual relationship. And also, you know, there are places where people are using multiple mentors because not, and I mentioned a near peer mentor can be very valuable. Well, then it's nice if you have someone who is who's maybe a little more senior and can think about how the team fits into the organization in a way that someone who is much newer maybe cannot. So you know, if I was going to design a mentoring program for a larger an organization that had the capacity for it, I would try to make sure that there were additional mentors available so that the team could do what you're saying, Paul, seek out mentoring on so like a situational basis, because sometimes the other mentor would be better. I think there's another thing if we want to talk, like, so for example, your mentoring of teams could have a diversity and inclusion kind of objective to it, right? It's one of the things that you could do. And if that's the case, then it'll probably make you look at mentors in a different way. And I talked to a psychologist from UMass named Buju Dasgupta, who is the director of the Institute for Diversity in STEM at the University of Massachusetts. And what she described to me was that it's very clear that if there are, how did she put it? Well, let me see. I wasn't thinking to talk about this, but you kind of introduced it, Paul, and I think it's a valuable thread to pull. So there are ways that we identify ourselves. It might be gender, ethnicity. It could be other things like functional domain that you work in, and a lot of different ways that we identify ourselves. If you are a minority by any categorization in a team, it leads to feelings of isolation and disconnect to the team. If you see a role model that you identify with on one of those bases, then it can help you feel more connected. And this has been the area of Buju's research. Her whole career is demonstrating that if you provide the right type of connections to people on teams, they're going to fit in better, contribute more, and you know, have a higher morale and higher productivity is essentially how I would summarize it. So having multiple mentors and having the mutuality that you described, Paul, I think that is very valuable. So just a time check, we're doing pretty well because we're about to wrap up here. And another thing that I think is important, especially for the folks who are sitting on the talent development side of the house, right? You already have initiatives. And if you make team mentoring something that is and of itself, then it could be very difficult to say, how am I going to fit this in? How am I going to avoid burning out the organization, having too many initiatives, and is this going to impact the other things that I'm doing? So I'd say, think of team mentoring as a way to complement the initiatives that you're pursuing. Make the team mentors aware of the goals and versed in the things that you're trying to implement. And I call this kind of an instructor-led version of learning in place. So does anybody from the learning side have a certain initiative that they're, besides one-on-one mentoring? I think we're going to leave that one aside. But do you have a kind of an initiative that you've been working on that you'd like to get more longitudinal follow-up with the people who took the training?
We had a management one, managing at our company series, kind of a 12-month long initiative that we're still trying to figure out how to get feedback and follow up on.
So Kalenga, if you had mentors for your teams, you could give them important takeaways from that training that were delivered before, have it top of mind for the mentors, and have them look for the opportunities to recognize the positives of applying it. And even sometimes say, oh, hey, we have a common point of reference. Remember managing at work? In the second module, they talk about doing this and this. This is a perfect chance for that, right? Oh yeah, that's right. So this is a way to have what I will call instructor-led learning in place, integrating the things you're already doing. You can also use this to diffuse learning. When you have a team that's doing something great, that's aligned with one of your initiatives, the mentors, you can make sure the mentors are communicating with each other, and you can diffuse that a little quicker through the organization. And your mentors can provide feedback of how things are going to your talent development group. So this has been great. I'm glad we have a little extra time, because I was hoping for more stories and questions. And so Sandy, you had mentioned a specific team and a specific situation. If you wanted to share that, and you don't have to, but, or if anybody else has a specific situation, or this has sparked an idea, please do feel free to share. Maybe I'm going to call on Karen, right? Because I feel like we have an opportunity here. You said that you're.
So yeah, the culture in the company is very team oriented, but they work in silos, in a lot of silos, and we have a lot of systems that go on in our environment. Mentorship is rising, but we do like the traditional one-on-one and ongoing for like 6 months through the platform. We use Cronus. I think if you've heard of that.
It looks good. I've read all their white papers. It looks attractive. Do you like it?
I do like it. Yeah, they're really good. They're really, really good.
Cool.
And then this team mentoring concept, I'm going to bring up to them too, to see if it could be guided for a team approach and do that. So that's a really good question. What I see is how to implement it within the environment. Like I said, there's seasoned folks who are doing, there's at 125% capacity right now for all healthcare, right now within the company. Learning culture is at the bottom, but people are reaching out. I see the people reaching out for support and mentorship, where mentorship is becoming that support of how to deal with burnout a lot. And healthcare is producing, that's just what this environment product going out the door right now. Burnout is a thing. We have too much and no time. And you said something about giving time or something. There might be a trick and tip you said you might be able to share. Rolling out this type of team program, I can see it. Gosh, I don't know how to launch it. I wouldn't know how to launch it. Communications, all the Abby, communications, how to train a team mentor. I see it being someone who's seasoned, but they can also be experiencing burnout. They have no time. People go to them all the time. It is influence without authority, people. And that's what I mean. I don't know how you would start it, to tell you the truth. I really don't. But time is a factor for everybody at my company. And, but I do want to get mentorship to support each other.
So here's a quick thought. Think of the teams that are doing the most critical work and seem to be impacted, and they're at risk, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Because attrition is, and we're losing people too. Yeah.
Find the most, your top 3 teams that could use help, and then ask yourself, if I could connect them with this, what you mentioned, like a guide, like Obi-Wan Kenobi for teams, okay? I could connect them with some, and by the way, I will.
An Obi-Wan, we'll just say an Obi-Wan.
Yes, right, but he didn't do the best job.
Okay, let's say,
but
who's the first guy in the first movie, Star Wars 1, who was the mentor of Obi-Wan? He did a
Yes.
good job.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Liam Neeson. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just take that team and say, who could I connect them with that could really help them along? Okay. And let me give you an example of a team that I was responsible for. I didn't run the team. My director of R&D ran the team. One of our board members said, you should get this guy to help you. Okay. I don't use his name because he's known, and then John and I are going to have to talk about people we know, and I don't want to call him out in this random session, but you should get this guy to help you. He's really, really good. And so I distinctly remember a conversation that he had as a picnic table conversation outside the company. And we're getting ready for our next wave of things that we have to get done. And, like all teams, you have to decide, let's see, am I taking a shortcut here because of the deadline? Or do I need to do something more that might take longer? I don't know how to balance these resources. And he asked two guiding questions. One was, what are you the most worried about that could go wrong at this next stage of testing? Went around the table, heard from the engineers. And then he said, what could you do about it now? Right. And so this is an example of something that is super simple and really helps a team that's underwater, right? A team that actually knows what it should be doing, but just is too buried to actually do the things that make the most sense. This is why having someone from just outside the team with a little more experience that can help the team catch breath and take a step back and look at things to understand that. And, sometimes that might involve adjusting the path that a lot of people have already contributed to and bought into, but it just doesn't make sense. We put this project on rails and it's headed towards a collision. Why don't we just take a step back and ask ourselves, what should we really be doing here, right? So I do think that maybe for you, that finding the teams that are the most impacted and struggling the most, and just finding the resource or resources as guides, senior help in thinking and organizing the work, to just speak with the team as a whole. And if you have this concept of team captains or project leader or things like that, to talk to the different members of the teams and so forth, and just kind of get an understanding of the situation, ask a few good questions, and let the team figure out for themselves how to really get things back on track and to a state that the team and management feels is more on track and in control.
Good job. Yeah, I like that.
And if you're addressing specific problems that everybody agrees is a big problem, this is like a crisis level problem in the company, there's no objection to getting someone who should be very good at helping to see a path through to solving that problem. And that's a start.
But they say, okay, well, I know mentoring is volunteer usually, but they say we have no money right now. There's no budget crunch.
Yeah. So Karen,
Yeah.
there's lots of team surveys out there, team health surveys out there, and say, hey team, here's a team survey. Take it, see what's working, see what's not working. And it's more of a self-service model. And you say, based on what's working, what's not working, talk about it as a team. Here's some tools. Here's a playbook. Here's some toolbooks for you to help you. So it's a little more of when things are really tight, staffing's tight, budget's tight, you got no money, but helping the teams help themselves a little bit.
So give a toolkit.
Yeah, a toolkit, but it's really what I found. It's not so much a toolkit. It's just a team taking time to say, how are we doing every 6 months? How are we doing as a team? And there's lots of different team models out there, right? But it's you can debrief the survey results with them a little bit. Help guide them a little bit, but that doesn't take a lot of time.
Okay.
I like that.
And it's different than the org health survey. So if your organization large enough, they start doing employee engagement surveys. They start asking employees, right?
So typical. Yeah. So typical. Yeah.
Right. And and then the managers, then the managers are really, supposed to build high performing teams as a manager, right? And so that's where there's probably tools and support there around, okay, you got your org health survey, your engagement survey results, here's some toolkits for you. That's, there's probably already a lot there. Maybe I'm talking more cross-functional project teams, a little bit that are kind of in the middle, where they're not, they don't have a boss, like they have like a sponsor on their project, but it's, people are put on the project, but their manager is not on the project. That's a little more gray area, but people managers will say, hey, I got my employee engagement survey results. I'm looking to how do I build my team? And that's where just offering, simple tools for them in a way it's not, you're not having to design something new, or you're not facilitating. Maybe you don't have time to facilitate something for them,
Another self-service kind of low cost way for a team to take back control is whether you use a survey or you just use a reflection, to have a reflection and have the team put energy into trying to improve their teamwork, right? So in Agile of different flavors, it's often like a small fraction of your effort is put into improvements in becoming a better team. But if you just introduce the concept of on a regular basis, it might be after certain milestones, it might be on a calendar frequency basis, having the team reflect on how are we doing on our team goals, how are we doing as a team, right? And then specifically trying to come up with ways to improve how the team is functioning, and then commit to try one, right? So our student teams, we have them on a weekly basis trying to think of a way to get better and implement at least one small, can be very small, one small change, and then see how that goes. If they like it, they keep it. And if not, they try something else.
Love it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks also, John, right? That's great. Sandy, did you want to describe the specific team that you're trying to help and throw it out to the group?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've just been figuring out while we're talking here is that the mentor is someone different than a team member. And I think that's, sort of a big aha to me. Because all this time I've been thinking like, okay, if you're on a team, someone sort of acts as a mentor, and maybe that would be the project manager or the team manager, if you will. So on this team that I'm on, which is a very small core team for what we're doing, there's one person who's very knowledgeable in the IT side of it. There's another person who's got a lot of experience in the reporting and the user reporting end. And then there's me, who doesn't have a lot of experience in either of those, but I guess I was selected for the team or asked to be on the team because I've been a project manager with, generally do okay at that role. And I feel as though, from my particular situation is I feel like I'm just not able to do what I'd like to do in terms of project management, because I'm clueless when it comes to what's actually needed in the IT end to make this change, and what's needed at the end user audience and in terms of reports, although I'm trying to be more educated on that in the last week. So, I struggle because I'm thinking, what am I doing on the team? I'm not managing it well. And I think thinking like maybe I should be mentoring it, but I think, what you're saying is the mentor should be somebody from outside the team. So that's where my struggle is.
You're sort of like, what's my contribution? What value am I adding, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. And for our project managers, it's really asking questions of the team. Hey, that sounds like a risk. You know, let's identify that risk. What are we going to do about that risk? Is that true? You know, it's just asking the good questions and helping the team come up with a overall schedule and keeping the goals visible and the schedule visible. But a lot of it comes back to that. To me, your contribution is asking good questions, you know, too.
Okay. I have to
So-
try that.
I would probably just put a period on the end of that sentence, and I like how John described that. And to the extent that you think domain knowledge is holding you back, then that can cause you to ask more questions, but maybe even of people outside the team. And once you identify some people that are supplying you some of the things that you think the team needs to be aware of that maybe aren't inside your core team, like certain risks, a team can be blind to certain risks. And so if you are, and you've been a program manager, project manager across multiple programs, you're connected across the organization, you can actually say, I'm just looking to understand better for myself, but more to identify risks that the team might not be thinking about. And you can engage with people, and you may find, this is so back to Paul's, when it's informal, you may find someone that is very effective in a 15-minute conversation, and then you feel comfortable to go back to them because, you know, a mentor that is listened to and sees that they're actually helping an important program is going to be willing to spend those short amounts of time to help you out.
It's a good idea. Thank you.
So I'll just remind one thing before we get into the general networking, which is you all have access to the Jamboard. And I left one slide. Remember, you can just click the right arrow to advance to a new screen. I left a slide at the end that said, if you have other questions or comments kind of still lingering that you feel weren't addressed, either for time or for clarity, then please just leave a note on the board. Also, if you had any feedback about the conversation we had today, I'd love to hear about it, what you liked or what could be improved. I think that's awesome. And then I'm going to stop sharing. And just remember, the next slide was a picture of me. It said, thank you. Big letters, thank you. Has my email address, which I can put in the chat right now. And I would be thrilled if we can keep the conversation going. And if you want to connect on LinkedIn or anything like that, that'd be great too. And I just want you guys to know that the email address does not have an M at the end. It's .co, not .com. So it's not a typo. And your computer may try to change it into a .com, so you have to watch out for that.
Can you put your LinkedIn profile, LinkedIn learning profile? I mean, LinkedIn profile.
Absolutely. I'll do that in a second. I think I know what it is, but I have to just look it up.
Or everybody's. We can have a group going.
You know, I
Do you
find
have a team
tremendous.
mentorship group?
Hmm?
Is there a team mentorship group going on LinkedIn by any chance? A group?
You know, not that I know of, and it could be something to be started. I think this is a relatively new concept to focus on this as you know, an explicit and structured process, right? So if you were to try to search the literature or find information about it, you would find very little. So I don't know, maybe you could start it and invite me, or we could talk about starting something together.
Well, thank you, Chris. I was going to ask if you could put your email in the chat for the group so that they could contact you in case you're not able to download the actual article from TD at Work for free. I did put it in the chat. So if you are
Okay,
a member of ATD National, just to clarify, it is free for you. If you're just a member of the chapter, but not of national, then I think there's a fee. But Chris offered earlier to, sync up with you later, or provide additional info if in fact you just wanted to get more information. And yes, for the others, feel free to share your LinkedIn if you would like, so that you can connect with others in the group. I wanted to say a big thank you, Chris, for your presentation today. Given the time that we've allotted, we only allot about an hour to kind of talk through, but I don't know about you guys, I was on the edge of my seat for most of it, just being like, tell me more about this concept. And I do have just, one slide. I'll just share one today. But raise your hand if you are not currently an ATD Golden Gate member. No judgment, no judgment. Okay, great. So Alicia, if you like today's event, if you're like, oh, I like this group, I like this connecting with other TD professionals, like I like all of that, consider joining. We host other learning events, we host networking events, and we love to hear your all feedback. If you join our chapter, you'll get the chance to continue to attend events at a discounted price, in some cases for free. And if you join in the next 7 days, we have a promo code join today. And so that is all. I'm going to say 30 seconds. But yeah, we have, how much time do we have? We have about 10 minutes. So any thoughts? What's coming to mind for you guys? This just chatting time. Alicia, you've been so talkative during this whole time. I wonder, Penny, for your thoughts.
I've been furiously taking notes. This is a completely new concept to me. And I came in thinking about my team that needs mentoring, totally not realizing that next week I'm going to Singapore. Our sales team there is pretty new, and mainly to listen and see what's helpful to them. But this has given me some great ideas just about how I might be helpful and just help them think through and solve some of their own things. This is like my first time interacting with them, except via Zoom. And I heard they just had a reorg there, like a pretty big one. So I'm like, wow, this is an awkward time to go, but this gives me some great ideas of how I might just be helpful just by listening in a little bit more of an active way. So I appreciate it.
Great, great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. John, what about you? You chimed in a couple of times, but what are your thoughts watching this? Are you like, oh, okay, I've seen that before? Or are you like, what are your thoughts?
Thanks, Chris, very much for your presentation, your work today. And there's a lot of different ideas going through my head, but it's there's one for mentoring in my context has been more career development, getting new people in their career, visibility to promotion, and visibility to senior leaders. And also with Inclusion Diversity, we have inclusion diversity groups with Hispanics, Asians, African American group, and we have leadership programs for each one of those groups, and get them in front of different leaders to help get them visibility and promotion and things. When I think about mentoring, it's more mentoring in that context, more one-on-one and supporting their career development. Coaching, we have our own internal coaching programs. And it tends to be more leadership coaching and one-on-one coaching and executive coaching. And I find that the coaches start off working with an executive or a leader and for them one-on-one, and it turns into team coaching. It's like they're helping that individual manager, that leader, and then I need help with my team. And I say, oh, I can help you with your team kind of too, but they're really not an expert in team development, but it kind of turns in that, And then there's process mentors or process team coaches. Like Chris mentioned, Agile or Scrum with software teams. Years ago, it used to be quality management, like quality was a big thing, quality circles, and a bunch of people got trained to facilitate, problem solving. And then came lean thinking and how we help teams with, again, it's more facilitating a process. And it's kind of like change managers or change management. It's kind of like a process, you know. But when I think about teams and why I work with teams, it's more simple, like very simple things with building high performing teams with a simple team health survey every 6 months. The team itself, it's their survey, it's their data, and the team leader works, they have a team discussion, say, how can we improve? And, you know, I report out trends across the teams to the senior leaders to say there's a trend I'm seeing across the teams, you know. But there's a difference between, but so much companies focus on, and L&D is really good with leadership development programs, right? And leadership development programs tend to focus on people management and functional people managers, but there's this whole group of other project teams that are not really part of that. And that's where I come in when I don't think about, I'm not a team mentor, I'm not the team coach. I don't know what I have no good description for what I do, because it's a little more, I say, organization development with helping these project teams be high performing on both the what they're doing. So where's it? Sandy mentioned project manager. So there's a professional project manager on the team. They're great at project management. There's the team leader, which is someone who's pulled out from another department, put on the team. They have no authority. They're there to help pull together the whole team. And then you have the team member, and then you have me helping them just get started. So I would say it's kind of defining your organization, what's going to work in your organization. You know, it's a little different, but there's definitely, like, L&D is really good on the leadership side. And when there's org health surveys, engagement surveys saying people are stressed out, my manager is not being supportive of my flexible work environment or things, like, okay, then it goes back to the functional people manager more than a team coach to me, kind of.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's a mix of more conventional ways of working where there's one-to-one mentorship and it's treated that way, and coaching, but then it sounds like, John, you found yourself in kind of a quasi, am I mentoring, am I guiding?
Yeah, I'm guiding. I mean, I found that we have lots of different experts on process. They're facilitating coaching or mentoring a process, which is a little different than understanding, you know, a team that's especially a cross-functional team versus so much of it is focused on people manager and their team. And that's a little different. Yeah.
Great. So I want to go to Sandy and Paul. Penny, for your thoughts throughout today's training. What are you taking away? What's doing for you?
For me, I think most of it I was just, you know, more or less absorbing. As I said, it's kind of an epiphany for me when I thought, oh, a mentor isn't necessarily an active team member. You know, a mentor is someone else, and that, in one sense, I see the value of that. In another sense, I can't see that happening in our organization. That I know everybody's going to say this. They're so short-staffed. I mean, it's like nobody has a spare minute to either be a mentor for someone else, and there's no hiring budget to hire on specific mentors. I don't know, that's probably just a lame excuse on my part, but you know what, to me that seems like a big step for a company. I mean, but as much as I see the value of it, because I think it's the right thing.
Well, and that's what I think, Chris, of what you were saying of, you know, maybe it's a matter of just starting really small and just, you know, having that picnic table. I love that. Someone said picnic table conversation with a colleague outside of your team that you know is a little bit more experienced. And, you know, maybe don't say mentor, you know, not quite yet. Maybe say, I just have this question, or I just have this issue, and what are your thoughts? And if that happens organically, then who knows, you know, if they, Chris, you said, if they see that they gave you some advice and it's actually impacting, and you're like, oh, thank you so much. You know, you circle back, you reward, you recognize, you thank, this is how it's helping my team. And then maybe further down, if things change, if the dynamic changes, then
Yeah.
we introduce it. But Paul, what about you?
Well, the one thought, and goes back to Karen a little bit, and I know she's not here, but the photo you had in there, Chris, about, the raft and that. First of all, is this the time to do mentoring? If that's where you are and that's how you're feeling, maybe this isn't the right thing. But when I thought of it, that raft comes ashore at some point. It gets into a calm at some point. And if you can find out when that is and become part of that when it's doing that, then you can do those little steps. I think, Kalinga, you're right on the mark. Do little things at first, but find those little calm periods. And for some places, it's first thing in the morning. For others, I've always been amazed. People say, well, we'll just add this to the end of a meeting. No, let's add it at the beginning of a meeting, because it's calmer at the beginning of the meeting, and everybody's energy is really going to be worked up at the end. And so this idea of making things a part of work rather than apart from work. I think when people say we don't have time to do it, is because they don't see it as part of their work. And if you can find little ways to make it part of their work, even if it's starting at 5 minutes or 10 minutes when they're willing to do it, then you got a chance.
All right, we are at 6:30. And Chris, I know I saw your hand, and since you are the facilitator, I will let you have the last word.
Well, I'll say, Karen, if you're watching the video recording, another really important tip that connects to what we've just been discussing is you start with the team. You put the team at the center. What do they need? And again, like before thinking of a program, the way Paul, you and Klinger were saying, you find the team with a high need, and then you just fill that need, and you don't have to label it, and see what happens from there. And so, so I thought that was great. You had asked me another question along the way, or prompted something, Kalenga, but I'll just leave it at that. And I really hope that you'll all connect and reach out and stay in touch, as Kalenga had mentioned. I would like to continue the conversation. We have a common interest, and so that'll be great. Thank you all.
Great. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.
Thanks, Kalinga.
Thank you all. I put a message in the chat. I'll let y'all read that on your way out the door. Have a good evening.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.